which is what we agreed to do when as you said, the repeal ordinance was put on hold 2 weeks ago. So with that being said, I would move that I would move to amend the repeal ordinance with the ad hoc committee replacement ordinance. And I'd like that motion on the floor.
All right, so Mr. Fowler.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Tripp.
I just have a couple questions. I was at the first ad hoc meeting, but I wasn't able to be at the second one. It seemed like there was a wholesale change between the original version that staff worked on with various members of the council and then the version that was read into the record. Where did that language come from? Because there didn't seem to be any discussion. The amendment that Mr. Barnes offered in ad hoc committee.
The amendments that Mr. Barnes, these were the amendments, the open space requirement initially said excluding undevelopable land, and the ad hoc committee removed those 3 words, excluding, where we said we will include that in the open space. And that was in section 22.3.6, section A. In section D, land dedicated for open space shall include right-of-ways of high tension and electrical transmission lines, oil and natural gas lines, rights of way of existing and proposed streets, or such uses as community swimming pools, clubhouses, and similar uses. The original had the word not was removed. Section D, we changed the wording around the fences. Fenced, vegetably screened detention or retention areas used for stormwater management shall be included in the calculation of required open space. Typically, a detention or retention pond has a chain link fence around it, and we just said we'd like vegetation planted around the fence to make it a little more pleasant to the eye. And the last change was, initially it said that if 40% of the land was not usable, that the 30% open space wouldn't apply. And we changed that to 30% of the land. Those were the changes.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just have a couple other questions, follow-up questions. Is there a definition of open space in Greenville County ordinances or the comp plan or anything like that?
Is Miss Gooker in here?
No, she's on Zoom. We could get her to come in. She could answer on Zoom. Ms. Gucker, can you hear us? Ms. Gucker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can hear you. There is a definition of open space.
I believe that's on page 4 of the.
Not in the amendment, but see, what I'm trying to understand is we're radically changing our definition of open space, and I want to anchor that to what is current in Greenville County. So I'm trying to figure out in the comp plan, in ordinances, or any policy documents that we as a county have, is there a definition of open space?
Again, I'll defer that to Ms. Gooker.
We are checking that. We're looking in the zoning ordinance for you.
Okay.
There is not one in the LDR, but we believe there's one in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, while you're looking at that, the reason I bring this up is it seems to me as I read this thing that you've created a a broad definition of open spaces, which is very pro HBA, I might add, very pro HBA. And it applies to every parcel of land in Greenville County.
No,
So
undeveloped,
if you're,
unzoned areas.
okay, if you're out in the country, you know, your definition of open space is the same as if you're in a less rural area. You know, a pool space should be counted as open space in the rural area of the county. I mean, the reason I bring this up is in the recently adopted comp plan, there's over 70 references to open spaces. And they're all tailored to the type of place that they are referred to. So in rural, there's kind of a description of open spaces. In less rural areas, there's another open space. And my concern is that we have applied a one-size-fits-all to open space, which accrues to the benefit of the home builders, but not necessarily to the Greenville County residents. And that's the question that I'm raising.
Paula, would not this open space that we have here apply only to this ordinance and to the unzoned areas?
Yes, it was designed originally just to apply to the unzoned areas. We do have a definition of open space in the zoning ordinance, which is somewhat different from that particular definition. Councilmember Tripp is correct. It is different.
Yeah.
I mean, when a builder or an investor buys a piece of property and there's a utility line or a gas line running across that property, they already know that that's undevelopable land. So why should that accrue to their benefit? I mean, why should we count that as open space? I don't understand the rationale for that. And I'm just trying to understand this because reason I bring all this up is I think I feel like this is being shoved down our throats and we've not had a discussion about some of the differences between the first version and the second version. And, you know, I don't know what the rush is to pass this version when we haven't had any internal discussions on this.
If I might comment on the undevelopable land, is in here and undevelopable land is considered as open space according to this. And I don't know of the other places or not. As far as this being on a rush basis, I certainly would hope it was. I really wish it had been on a much more rush section than it has been. Is that we still have after today, we can discuss today, but we also have 2 other readings. So there is, if you have any amendments or things that you want to bring up, then yes, we've got that to do. So I don't see that that we're on a rush place to do it. I think we need to get it done. And the things that I've been hearing from all the emails is you need to go ahead and do this. So on one side, I get pulled this way, the other side, I get pulled the other way. So this is the way we're going to go today.
If I could, I want to make one more point, and then I want to address Mr. Tripp's question. I forgot one of the most important points of the ad hoc committee and all the work that the staff did. Every one of us entered into this knowing that whatever we came up with wasn't going to be 100% acceptable to probably any of the individual groups. And we've tried to come to something that is workable, knowing some of the groups felt we didn't go far enough. Other groups felt we went too far. And we tried to strike a balance. But now, right, wrong, or indifferent, to address your issue, Mr. Tripp, yes, a power line or a gas line or whatever, everyone knows that's can't be developed on, but it's also open space. I mean, it's there. Nothing's going to be built on it. It can't be used for anything. And the committee, the sense of the committee was, we already know that that's going to be remaining open. So why should that not count as open space?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple comments to that, and I want to follow that comment. First of all, I want to say, I've been involved in this for several years with Planning Commission and now Council. So I'm familiar with it and been working hard on this. And I do want to thank Mr. Bowd. We've talked several times, and I want to, again, tell him how appreciative I am of how he ran the ad hoc committee and how quickly he got his job done and the meetings he had. Again, I wasn't able to attend the second one, and a lot changed from the first to the second one. And again, I've talked with Mr. Ballard about this, but here are some questions I have. And I guess I want to say all this is that I feel like we're, as a council, selling ourselves short because there is a solution to be had here, and we're going sort of from one extreme to the other and never really figuring out the problem. For instance, we're talking about definition of undevelopable space and what's included in that. Well, we have the power to create our own definition. If we can talk about high transmission power lines, maybe that's counted as open space, but roads, I don't think we should count roads and clubhouses as open space. There's a difference. So I guess my point is we have the people on here as a whole, and I'm glad we have the opportunity to talk about it now as a whole and instead of just in committee or in the ad hoc committee. So I'm glad we get to have this conversation, but we have the intelligence as a group, and we have the wherewithal. I think we can figure this out. And again, we have the ability to create these definitions. So I don't think we need to pigeonhole ourselves into including all this stuff in these different definitions. So, especially developable and undevelopable, and that we can discuss that. And I think we need to, because this is too important of an issue. We got to get right. And I completely agree with Mr. Ballard. We're never going to make everyone happy with this. It's not going to happen. I agree with you. But I think we owe it to ourselves. And this has been going on for, several years now. And I don't want to be back in the same arena 2 years down the road because we didn't do our job this time around. So I, as much as I don't want to say this, because I agree with the chairman, I think this needs to be done swiftly. And I know there's external factors that are pushing us to do something quickly, but that doesn't mean we get the wrong answer. The wrong answer quickly doesn't solve anything. So, and again, we have not had, as a group, as the 12 of us, had the ability to work on it together until right now. This is the first time we've been able to discuss it as a group of 12 in a open forum. So I would just like to say to everyone up here, I don't want to sell ourselves short. I think we can absolutely do this. And to that point, I know I emailed all of you at least a start of a way to do this, but after that hot committee, and receive no feedback from anyone. So again, I just want us to give an effort to try to do this instead of just going from one extreme to the other. So that's what I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman. I just want us to give our full effort, and again, commend Mr. Ballard on the committee, because I do think he did a great job and he moved it forward in a timely manner. And I appreciate the work all the folks in that committee did, but I just think it's important that we do this correctly. So I thank you for giving me that time to speak.
Can I just ask a question about the procedure on this? So this is, if we push this out of Cal today, where does it stand on the calendar? Does it still have second and third reading?
Yeah, second, third reading. It goes to council for second reading
Okay.
and a public hearing.
And yeah, the counselor said it has to have a public hearing because it's different than what we already had the public hearing on.
Changes, yeah.
Does this help clear up some of the legal problems that precipitated this whole exercise to begin with?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Tripp, yes. Yes, but yes.
And
I'll leave
Mr.
it there.
Tripp, if I could make a point, Mr. Chairman, if I could make a
Yes, sir.
point back to Mr. Tripp, assuming it's the decision of council to move this forward from here to council, this is the only time of the year that we'll have 3 weeks till the next council meeting, which is second reading, and 3 additional weeks between second reading and third reading, which gives us an extra week at both steps to do a lot of the things that Mr. Harrison and you have brought up if we need to really come up with, okay, I think in this particular section, we should address it this way and whatever. That is another reason not to hurry it, but to actually give us additional time to work on it.
Was there any discussion about, I mean, I know there are groups that are pushing us to have some language in here on endangered species and all. Was there any conversations on ad hoc committee about whether current law protects them, whether we need to address that in this? I mean, because that's going to be one of the flashpoints that we're going to get in the community.
In the committee, we did not do that. However, when some questions started coming in, I did speak with both Ms. Gooker, and she directed me to Mr. Tollison. And my concern